everyone. Welcome to another episode of the JKL Media Reviews podcast. You might recognize there's another name in there. I am joined by my co-hosts, Jesse
Hello, everyone.
and Lou.
Hello, this is my Audi.
Oh, yeah. This is actually my Audi and my innie because I'm in the same place I work. So we're going to talk about the first season of Severance, and I'm sure this has been covered a million different places, but we're going to set a baseline because when when the second season starts, we will be talking about that on an episode by episode basis as it releases. So we wanted to set this up with a season one chat. It's not really going to be a review. We'll talk about what we like and don't like, but really it's just going to be a recap and a refresher for us as well as you. What did you guys think of the first season? Spoiler alert, we all loved it. I'm going to ask Lou and Jesse to expound on that. So how about you, Lou?
The show has tapped into that rare vibe or occurrence. It's like that lightning in the bottle feeling to it, much Lost had. It has such a unique premise and at its core, just the concept of splitting your mind into two separate instances is such a unique idea that everything else around it is equally and more intriguing. But it's this core concept of our concept of ourself being split in two is such a unique idea that I just can't. It's rare for a show to come up with such a unique concept, and the execution of that concept has been so far quite amazing. We're in the honeymoon period with the series. We'll have to see if they can replicate that in season two because it's been a couple of years now. But I'm like many others, I'm pretty excited to see where the show is going.
How about you, Jesse?
Yeah, I remember I had not watched this, and I think you suggested it, Karen. We were talking about things to watch, and I ended up binging it and really loved it. One of my cultural blind spots is I've never taken the time to watch Park and Recs. And I
Oh,
know it's brilliant. I know it's great. I just haven't watched it. So I did not have a lot of, I knew who Adam Scott was, but I don't have any connection to him. I really like him in this role. And I thought the idea of work-life balance is something that I deal with in real life and in my role as a manager. The cynical Jesse says that all my employees talk about having a work-life benefit, but it tends to balance more toward their personal life. You should be understanding. And I often have to go, but balance means you also have a commitment to your coworkers and the company. And I will not get into specifics because I think I will get booed by possible part of our audience. So I really love this idea.
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
And I remember when it first came out, the reviewer said, "This movie makes me hate my boss and I'm self-employed."
Go
If you
watch
work,
it, number
yeah,
one.
if you work at any type of technology company, you will go, it's like Dilbert before Scott Adams became weird.
Scott Adams. Yeah.
Yes, you would read Dilbert and go, "Wow, that was my company."
Hmm.
There is just some universal themes in that. So yeah, I was really excited for us to talk about this on a consistent basis starting next week with new episodes.
Yeah, I think part of the appeal for me, number one, Adam Scott, and I apologize to people listening, but he's definitely one of my crushes. He's not traditionally attractive in this, so it's easy for me to say he's just a person, but I still have a crush on him. So that is why I started watching the show. But then between the three of us, we have all been day-to-day workers and we have all been managers. So I think we have an insight. There are some people that have gone a non-traditional route. but I do think that we have an insight into those roles in a company, and that also helps us understand and connect with the people in this show. Like I said, it's not unique. A lot of people connect to it on those levels. And I would think more people connect on I'm a worker, I'm a bee, I'm a worker bee kind of thing. And I think that's who you're supposed to connect with, the worker bees. I think that's set up for success as a series. And then the fact that they are slow burning it, where each episode reveals a little bit more and then the next episode a little bit more. And I do think it has that kind of Lost / Fringe kind of vibe where there was an overarching story and then each episode has a little bit of its own deal.
Bad for like older fogies, like we all are, but for listeners, if you've ever watched The Prisoner, it also has that vibe to it as well.
Yeah, definitely. That show was awesome.
Yeah. I am not a number.
That's right. And in this case, yeah, you have to watch that too. This is also, there's a lot of symbolism in this show, a lot of symbolism. So I'm going to try and give credit to everybody that I took bits and pieces from. I'm going to be leading, but Lou and Jesse will definitely correct me and try to lead me as well, which is great because we only decided on this a week ago or 2 weeks ago. Since this is the beginning of each episode, I'm going to start with the theme. The theme song was written, oh man, I should have had this already. Maybe you guys can find it while I talk about.
Season 1 score composed by Theodore Shapiro.
Thank you. Yes, so this guy, he went to the director and the writers and said, give me information because I'm going to make sure the theme fits. And there's a bit of theory, like music theory behind the theme, but the theme is left hand on the piano does one thing, right hand on the piano does the heavy lifting. And it fits with the series like the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. And also, exactly. And also the fact that one of them is reliant on one or two notes, just a chord, and the other hand is doing all of the other moving.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's brilliant. One of my things personally is I love to hear about the thinking behind a song or a theme song. One of the ones that I'm really into right now is Only Murders in the Building, sorry. It starts with a very baseline one note song. It's not a song, a stanza. Then the next one is another level, another layer, and the next one is another layer, and it ends with kind of a big like crescendo at the end of the episode. And I love this layering kind of thing. I love syncopation. I love layering. I love that someone puts a lot of thought behind a song, and that's the chorus nerd in me. So I super appreciate this, and I want to give credit to, and this is on TikTok, DJ IVVI. I'm assuming she's a DJ and those are Roman numerals, but that's just me. She breaks down the theme in this way. And if you want to go check her out, feel free to. But that's where I got a lot of this. I thought the theme fit with the show. I love that kind of CGI sequence that goes with it. And she actually broke it down and I thought, wow, that's so insightful. Did you guys have any connection to the theme song?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I totally agree with you, and I'm glad that you've mentioned that because that's what's so great about the show. It works on so many levels. It's not just the actors and the characters, but it's also the look of it, the style of photography, the opening credits, and then the musical theme. It just it's so unique, and I love that. Also, there's like when they're playing the loop that they always play or play usually through the show. It sounds like a clock ticking
Mm,
thing going on. So it's just a really unique look and vibe to the show, and then and the music is always in the background. It's giving you this feeling like time is progressing, but there's definitely two different things going on, which is what the show is all about. And I love I just think that they've done an amazing job of giving this show such a unique personality because let's face it, at its core, watching four people sitting in an office doing office work is not that exciting. So they really have to build up this whole culture or world. I'll turn it over to you now, Jesse.
I, wait, that kind of reminds me of a conversation I had with you, Lou, a long time ago,
Mhm.
where you mentioned the soundtrack to a certain video game. I don't remember. It was an animated video game. Journey, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we were
Beautiful
talking about,
violin. Yes.
yeah, the music there. And I love that you appreciate that. And that you were right. Everywhere, the music is giving you something subliminally
Yeah.
to remind you of what's happening. Okay, sorry about that. How about you, Jesse?
Sometimes unique clicks and sometimes it doesn't. And I always think it's very brave for showrunners to try to do something different. And by the way, I forgot, I did watch Party Down, so I knew him
Oh,
from
that's so
that.
great.
Yeah, I knew him from that series. Yeah, so I like the one of the things is the opening sequence, the way the show looks different in filming, the starkness of the sets, and that theme song does help set that mood where we aren't sure what is next, right?
Yep.
We aren't sure at all. Yeah, I was really excited. There is that, and I keep planning to do a Lost rewatch and just haven't done it yet. But there is that I don't understand what's going on, but I'm
Hmm.
enjoying the journey. What are this purpose of crunching these numbers?
Yeah.
Exactly.
It does feel like that Lost where they're punching in these numbers every,
Three
certain,
twenty
yeah,
six, three
yeah,
eight were
yeah.
the
And I
anyway.
can't remember how often, like every 20, 30 minutes or
They didn't know
yeah,
what. Yeah.
exactly.
And there's a tie-in with the Fibonacci sequence.
Yeah,
As I've mentioned before, I was so into Lost. I wish there
yeah,
was an ARG for Severance because I'd be so in to
yeah,
playing a game in real life that went along with the show, but there is not,
yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah.
So yeah, I want to first talk about some of the symbolism in the show, and there's a lot. We're not going to cover all of it, but
Okay.
there are some main things that I hope you guys were intuitive to catch it. There is a coloring thing that happens. I'll give one example. Red and green are two main colors in this show. There's a show where Helly is trying to leave. She's walking down a hallway. Mark is not looking. He's actually got his back to the wall and he's not watching her. So she's alone in the hallway facing the elevator that she thinks is going to take her out. And the elevator has a green light over it. And behind her is a fire, like a fire hydrant thing, a fire.
Extinguisher.
God, extinguisher is a fire extinguisher, and that is red. In front of her is go, and in back of her is stop. And they use this in many places in the show to show the irony of the situation that she wants to leave in this moment, green, but when she comes back in, she's going to see red. And we already know she's coming back. We just don't know how it's going to happen. And it's so disconcerting that they show she goes in the elevator and the next thing she remembers is coming out of the elevator. And that is also a theme that's been shown several times in this episode that no time has passed for you.
Yeah.
You go into the elevator to leave, and the next thing you know, you're back in the elevator
Yeah.
working.
Best exemplified by how he tried to hang herself. Yeah.
Exactly. It happens in the elevator
Yeah.
where it's the only place that she can do it because Inside is one way and outside's the other, and never the twain shall meet, as it were. And I'm not going to get into the ending until we get there because there's a lot of things that make sense once you get to the ending. But there's also other color things. It's bright, too bright, fluorescent bright inside the workplace,
Yeah.
lumen, and
Very
then outside
clinical white. Yep.
a hospital. And I'm sure they're making a reference to the psych ward a little bit, right? And empty. It's very empty. There's a lot of unused space
Yes.
in
And there's
inside
lots of
lumen.
corridors.
Exactly. Lots of corridors, lots of small corridors.
Twists and turns.
Yeah, it's a maze.
Yep.
And that's a very corporate thing. It fits in with almost every corporation I've worked at. It's always too artificially blue light, and it always makes you feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And then outside, since it's nighttime, it's dark and dank, and you go home in the evening and you spend your nighttime in the dark. And it feels like you never get any sun
Yeah.
in the show. There's never any sun.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's true.
yeah, it's always artificial light or dark when we see Mark in the real world. And that definitely is an allusion to the fact that his life is terrible. He relies on drinking and just being morose in the real world because of all the things that have happened to him. And that darkness, rain, all of that stuff really fits in with his outlook on life. And he is the person we're following the most in the outside world. And then on the inside, he can be bright. While he's acerbic and sarcastic about things, he's happier inside Lumen because he gets to leave his life behind. And that also, I feel like it's shown in that brightness. I feel like you have caught on to some of this, but I definitely want to talk about it. Um,
Jesse, you want to go first?
Yeah. One of the things that I struck, and I'm not sure where we're going, but I'll start with this, is the idea after a loss, how do you lose yourself and take away the pain?
mhm.
As I've talked about, my sister lost her husband in November. It has not been 2 months since she lost her husband unexpectedly. And last week, someone said to her with kindness in their heart, I'm sure it's getting better every day. And my sister's like,
No,
yeah, it's not getting better at all.
yeah,
Um, so the idea that you could turn your mind off and not for 8, 9 hours a day, not deal with your grief, you see why he wants to do that.
hmm
You see why that would be appealing. And the other thought that, so this is how do you bury yourself in grief and how the ultimate of, this is work-life balance, how to do this. And there is a an atmospheric of dread in that office, right? I just saw on LinkedIn like things people don't care about, and like 60% is free pizza. What they care about is flexibility, respect, all this other stuff. And so I'm always laughing at because I'm a corny guy that does do morale building things and doing all this stuff. So they have all this perks you could win.
Melon Party. The Melon
Yes, and
Party really struck.
that they're trying to do. So
Yeah,
I,
again, that's the symbolism of it's definitely ramped up in this show, but it's a common theme in
yeah,
that people think that's going to help you day to day. And I agree, there's a lot of dread, but again, like real life, there's a lot of dread, but it's under the surface.
yes. Hmm.
Yeah. I think visually the thing that stands out the most for me is the office environment. Like we've already talked about, like how blindingly white it is. It's very sterile. So it's very, gives you a very clinical and personal feeling. And then all those corridors that they're always traveling through to get to the various departments, it's like rats in a maze kind of vibe,
Yes.
right? So that I think visually that the show has a very unique style. It's more in your face when they're in the office, and in the outside world, it's a bit different. It's a little, but in general, it's just a more warmer, more organic kind of feeling to it, as opposed to the work-life balance. All the departments, their badges all have different colors. There's all that kind of stuff going on. Jesse just mentions like the team building exercises, and then there's that weird mix of the Severance technology is pretty advanced, yet everything that they're doing or using in the show looks older, previous generations. Retro tech, all the terminals and that look like Wang word processors or
Yep.
something. They use
Oh yeah,
Polaroid
they're very old.
cameras.
Hmm.
Surprised that they use discs for video instead of tapes, but they do use discs. So there's this interesting retro tech vibe to it as well. Um, and then just the look of the office building, like the parking lot, it's symmetrical, right? Both the left and right sides match each other. It just works. Like the look, like every aspect of this show just seems very carefully thought out. I don't know how much lead time they had in pre-production to do all this stuff, but boy, they really did their homework, and it's what it makes it so distinctively unique. And I'm not quite sure what the if it's just a visual cue or there's going to be some sort of symbolic use of it later on. But just like when they're going in the elevator, the image kind of warps a little bit as they're switching from their one personality to the other. It's just really well done.
Yeah, I think great points from both of you. He shopped this around a lot, and it was in limbo for a couple of years. So he definitely had a lot of lead time, but it wasn't concentrated. So I think that he had a lot of time to build this universe, at least on paper in his head before. And I'm going to say it's Ben Stiller that really got this into motion. He found the script interesting, and he decided he wanted to help get it produced, get it made. And I think it's cool that Ben Stiller is behind a lot of the inception. And it's just, he's also who got the job for Christopher Walken. He brought Christopher Walken in. And Dan Erickson, who is the creator of the show, he said he was barely getting a hand on the fact that he was working with Ben Stiller when Ben Stiller said, "Hey, let's get Christopher Walken for this role." And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, Christopher Walken shows up, and all the people he's working with, John Turturro and Patricia Arquette, all huge names and links. Adam Scott is no slouch, but it's not like he's been working in the industry for
Yeah.
30 years where these people have been, or 30 or 40 years in some cases. So I love that he shopped it around. He couldn't get it made. No one had belief in it. And all of a sudden, when Ben Stiller reads it and he gets other people to read it, all these people are attracted to it because it just hadn't been in the right hands yet. It looks like everybody just jumped at taking these roles on. No one had to be convinced to be in this show. And I bet all those people that turned it down are really kicking themselves at this point, because I think Apple sees a lot of things, and I am not an Apple fan, but I think that the work they're doing on Apple Plus is some of the best work in a streaming service.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, since forever. And I think they're really picking up things that maybe haven't been popular, but they know it's going to work. And I think a lot of times it is a home run, to make baseball metaphors. So I just love that there's a lot of confidence that Ben had in this project, and that translates to the love for their roles that the actors have. And as I mentioned earlier, the composer was excited also to work on this. And it just shows that when you have something quality and someone in the right place sees it, and someone else has confidence in it, that it happens for you. And I am so eternally grateful that this got made because it really is amazing. And to have those people, it's mind-blowing to me. When Christopher Walken showed up,
Yeah.
I thought to myself,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've seen that he definitely has, he doesn't sniff his own farts. Let's put it that way. He he has done some stuff on Saturday Night Live that has made fun of himself. He's open to other things. He's done a series on Amazon. I don't remember what it's called, but where he's a prisoner and they're on like a cleaning crew.
That's
Yeah,
Outsiders. That's hilarious.
it is.
He's funny in it.
So we see him, it's not unheard of, but I can see where it's a oh, whoa kind of thing for him being in it.
Curious for both of you guys, who's your favorite character in the show?
Wow, that's hard. Who do you think?
I really like
Hmm.
because I feel like her confusion.
And the reveal of who she is
I did not see that coming.
still surprised me more than the reveal about Gemma still being alive.
Yeah,
Same.
yeah, and so Adam Mark is our hero,
Yep.
so you have to pull for him.
But he is so morose
Yes.
to be in love with
Yeah.
that character.
hmm No, and then I thought Patricia Arquette was
Mm,
wonderful in Medium. I
yeah.
love that series. I think despite it being the supernatural, I think that dealt with their marriage, her and Joe in
Yeah.
Medium is one of the most realistic marriages on
She
TV.
she looks so much smaller in this show though. Or is it just
Hmm.
Yeah,
me? I don't,
but yeah, there is a lot of star power
Mm,
in this series.
a lot.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's hard to pick.
Yeah, because like John Turturro's character, comes across as such a tight ass, right? But then
yeah,
by the end of the season, he's an artist and he's in love
And
with
yeah.
Christopher Walken's character, and his father's got a military background, so you're wondering what's
mhm.
going on with that. I guess the only character that really doesn't get fleshed out is I can't remember his name either, and I'm looking at the list here. The guy with the glasses. Is it Irving?
Yeah,
Devin or Dylan.
Dylan George,
Oh, that's
right? No.
Dylan.
Yeah. Dyken
Dickon
Larkin.
Locken. I loved her since Dollhouse.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
Agents of
there's
S.H.I.E.L.D. for me.
yeah.
Mm.
So I just really find this interesting.
It's
And
who do
they
you?
won, by the way, they did win an Emmy for musical score.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Biggest surprise of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like Dylan. I know he's not fleshed out, but I think he's funny and he's the least offensive person there. I hate to say it that way. Irving was not my favorite. I can say that right now. But as you said, when it gets near the end of the season, he evolves into a different character. They layer these characters, and each
Yeah.
episode you learn something new about them. I just loved how earnest Dylan is. He is so into this job. He loves when they parties. This is the guy that you would really love to work with.
Mm.
Just a super helpful,
He's
happy.
sarcastic at times. So.
Yeah, but still, it's a happy sarcastic. It's not like
Yeah.
Irving. Irving is dark in a different way. But I also
Yeah.
like Devin, his sister in the real world. I thought she was great and underrated, probably.
Yeah, I and because of the arc of the season, you're wondering, is she sincere or is she part of this whole, like we even talked about the Egan family and
Right.
that whole thing. Like there's this, that's why the show starts off very small, with
Mm-hmm.
Scott, and then as we get into Lumen and that, it gets bigger and bigger. So now we've got Lumen, we've got all these weird um uh, rooms with these Egan family figures in them, which is
So,
weird remembrances or whatever. So,
mhm.
like, how powerful is this family in the outside world? Um, Uh, and so there's just there's just so much going on with all these characters. With Dylan, what I like about the best about him is from a physical standpoint is when his glasses slide down to the end of his
Mm-hmm.
nose and he's making his mouth make that little pucker. Physically, he's just an interesting guy to watch.
He's goofy, but I love him.
Yeah, I hope he gets a little more development in the second season because,
They've
you
set
know,
him up
he's got a
to
kid,
have a
but
little
we
bit.
don't.
Yeah.
For me, the biggest surprise was the reveal that Helly was a part of the Egan family,
Yeah.
for sure. The Gemma reveal was second, and I just, yeah, there's just so much going on. There's so many things you could talk about, which is one of the reasons why we decided to do this show because there's enough
Hmm.
meat on the bones here for an episode to episode review, I
Yeah,
believe.
absolutely.
Yeah. And what do
Yeah,
you guys think of Milchick? Because he is the guy who's like their manager that comes in and gives them all
yeah,
the incentives and all that. He's
yeah.
so weird, but there's something interesting about him, right?
Hmm.
And Charles and I, when we first started the Fandom Zone podcast, one of the things that we talked about every week was the show Legion. This kind of puts me in the mind of Legion, which there's two different things happening. There's his multiple personalities, and then there's his real life, essentially.
Right.
And it's also very surreal. And I feel like this has echoes of that. I don't think it took any inspiration from it. I don't know if
Yeah.
he watched that, but it definitely has that kind of surrealness to it. And the fact that there's a duality in it. And it's so difficult to say one thing is my favorite. Everything is so intertwined. There's always two sides to everything. So there's a likable part to everybody and a part that you don't like. Mark is not easy to like.
Yeah.
Definitely. Even his innie is
Mhm.
not easy to like.
Yeah.
As much as I love Adam Scott, I can't say he's my favorite.
Hmm. And that now they've set up an interesting dilemma too, because they've got Mark is found out about his wife,
Hmm.
but we don't know how true his memories are. So that's one of the strengths of the show too. That is the innies and outies. They're both unreliable narrators
Correct.
because you're
Yes.
not getting the whole picture, right? You're just seeing these two slices of them. But you've got this gamma thing going on, and yet there's this attraction between him and Helly at the same time. So
Yeah.
that's the most interesting love triangle I think I've ever seen.
There's a quadrangle because he does go out.
The midwife, yes, but
Yeah,
I think that.
early. Oh, yeah, it's over. She got tired of him. But there's just so many things that could interest him, and he sabotages himself all the time.
Mm.
And one of the things that I find this sense of dread and how do that Helly, you would think there'd be some way for her to remember what she was doing since she is on the inside.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
wonder if she watches videos or can tell. It is just very shocking when you find out, did she do this because she's testing something? It's always interesting why we're having to do this, at least
Mhm.
from
Yeah,
my
there's
perspective.
there's a lot of motivational questions that they
Yeah.
pose to us,
Yeah.
both inside Lumen and outside Lumen.
Yeah.
I want to also bring up, since I just said that word, there's a lot of buzzwords that are used in this show.
It has its own
Severance,
language, yes.
yeah, Severance as being the main one, they're obviously perverting it because
Yes.
severance means the money that you get. And again, it's in the business world, it's the money or package that you get when
Right.
you leave or when you are asked to leave a corporation. And here it just means severed
Yeah.
from your real life, that you are cut in half. And again,
Yeah.
that's where that word comes from. But there's Gemma is the wellness director.
Mhm.
And that's ironic because he is unwell because of her.
Yes.
There is the code detectors that check to see if you're in contact with yourself, whereas In real life, it would be something that would stop other things from getting into your system, like espionage and all that. And I think the biggest one for me is break room. Break room usually means some place where you get away from your job and have food and
Yeah.
have conversation. And I think that they're so clever in this case, it means where they break you, that
Mhm.
this is the
Yeah,
room in
double
which they
meaning.
break you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are so many instances of this when they're talking about the numbers, that it's words that we're familiar with, but they use it in a way that makes you realize that this is a perverse situation. Everything is different on the inside. Is there anything that you guys noticed in this kind of wordplay situation? Jesse?
Not right offhand. I'm sure, and I think this will be one of the, as we're watching this new one, I should keep that in mind and make a note going, oh, yeah, this is, look what we're doing again, right? Here is another kind of clever wordplay.
How about you, Lou?
The break things that they do, like the is it the muffin or the cupcakes thing, or and then he
Yeah.
gets Mark, or no, Dylan gets that special waffle
E-
party. So there's all this stuff going on, and I want to extend your question, Karen, to because this character is the most perplexing to me is
mm,
Devin's husband. Rickon, the psychologist or author of the 5 books, because his books have a
Rickon.
lot of Rickon. He has a lot of wordplay in his books too, right? I don't know how you guys felt, but my initial impressions of them, this guy is a doofus. Like, why is Mark's sister married to this guy in the first place? What does she
Yeah.
see in this guy? And then, but then his book becomes very instrumental in the innies getting out of their formulating the plan to get in contact with or find out about their Audi life. And he's got that book with all the quotes in it. So he's a very perplexing character to me. And he has some of the funniest lines when he says, "Help me hang the kelp." I was, what? That was hilarious.
Rickon is so weird.
He is very
He's
weird.
annoying, yet he's endearing at the same time.
Like we're not going to eat at this dinner party, right?
Mhm.
And it's just, okay,
Yeah,
why?
Yeah.
he's so
Yeah.
and
He says to
so
his he
pretentious.
says to his assistant, "Prepare the neti pot."
Yeah.
Oh, gross. I remember that now.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah,
the
there's
whole thing
nothing
about
endearing about him. And Devin seems like a good, down to earth person. And
yeah,
seeing her married to this guy,
and she has a great relationship with Mark too. Like they're tight,
oh,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, but
Yeah.
sympathetic.
yeah,
Hmm.
so the whole thing about Gemma really blew me away on several levels. Is Mark's recollection or memories about her right that she was his wife? And if that's true, how how far in are or are they in at all? Is Devin and Rickon? Are they into this? Are they part of this Lumen conspiracy or whatever? And the whole implications of that, because we're all through the season, we're going, okay, there's an Indian outie, but at least their memories in that life are to them are correct. So
Yeah.
this Gemma reveal casts doubts on their outie
Yep.
Yeah.
um, personalities because Mark is now remembering or realizes that this wellness director is his wife, but in the office he never clued into that. I just think the implications of that, and then you put that into all the other little drips of clues that we've got, like that senator's wife who has been severed so that she doesn't remember going into labor,
Yep.
which seems like a pretty extravagant use of that technology, but that's what the rich and powerful do, right? So,
Exactly.
There is this sense of dread that this is the evil corporation, and
yeah.
the idea that this is, oh no, this is a good thing, right? And like I call her my sister,
Yep.
right? It this You're uncomfortable, at least I was,
Yeah.
to this in this discussion, right? You're feeling, I got a bad feeling about this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's definitely deliberate. Nothing
Yeah.
in the show is by mistake.
No.
I
Yeah.
feel like every single thing that happens in the show is by design.
I
And
agree.
you don't realize it until you get that connection, which I love as well. And since you brought it up, I would like to introduce a theory that a lot of people have had.
Okay.
there's a problem with Gemma in that she was in an accident where she hit a tree head on, I believe is the thing. And you would think he's seen her body, right?
Yeah.
That would be consistent with something real happening.
Hmm.
The theory has been brought up that there's cloning going on. We have goats that might be used in testing.
Hmm.
We have Gemma showing up when she is definitely dead in the outside world. We have the thing where people are in on it. There's numbers being looked at as well. Are those making sure that the sequence of DNA or whatever is not getting corrupted? What is happening? I'm assuming that they have insight because of their implant into these numbers. And here's the biggest thing. Kier Egan, he is a god, and he's been shown to be dead, that it's his ancestors, that all the people that follow him.
Mhm.
Is he implanted
Hmm.
in this new incarnation? He seems a little wooden, but there's also this authoritarian piece of him, and the fact that no one knows what's happening inside Lumen. It's such a mystery.
Yeah.
So cloning would be one of those things that people don't want everyone to know. It's only one theory. There's a million different theories of what they do inside Lumen, but there's definitely stuff to connect here.
Hmm.
And I think it's an interesting thing to think that when someone is a god, they don't want to die.
Right.
Isn't that kind of the deal? They want to live
Yep.
on. And him having kids and then implanting his own consciousness into one of your children, that would make sense. And the fact that Helly, who would also be one of his descendants, may be catching on and trying to out everything. What do you think about the cloning theory? That is not my theory, by the way. That
Mhm.
is
Hmm.
something that I've seen.
Jesse?
No, I don't. This is one of those where there are some shows where I really try to do some figuring out,
Hmm.
but often I just on this one, I'm just going along with what's happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I'm enjoying the journey so much, I don't want to necessarily spend too much time thinking. Now, I
Right.
think that as we do this every week, I will be doing more
Hmm.
because we're breaking it down.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
yeah, how about you? Anything, Lou?
I haven't delved into what the prevailing th theories are from fans. The cloning one, my initial impression reaction is let's not cloud the storyline with subgenres of tropes like
Yeah,
this because the core of the show is the Severance technology.
yeah,
I think it would work to the show's benefit to stay in that lane and not branch out into all these
hmm,
other technologies.
yeah,
If we want to explore cloning, go watch, oh, what's that show with the girl that was like 9 clones of her? Orphan Black. Go watch Orphan
Yeah.
Black.
yeah,
I much prefer this show to stay in its own Severance lane.
hmm,
On the other hand, there have been clues dropped about the Gemma character. It sounds like the only time that her innie is awake is when she's doing these wellness sessions, because I think she said
Yep.
something along the lines that she's only awake for 20 or
She's a
40 minutes a day or
part-time employee.
part
Yep.
time.
Yep.
So why would that be? Is it because cloning the technology is not perfected and she might be aging rapidly if they let her live a normal work cycle or whatever? So I'm just throwing that out there because I've just
Yep.
never even considered the cloning thing. But I would much rather them be more creative with why she's in the position that she's in the show right now, in that
hmm,
she's not dead. Why is she not dead? Was that done because for some Luminous selected Mark for this technology, and they were blackmailing or something. Like I'm just throwing out
Sure.
storming things.
Sure.
I'd rather see that train of storytelling done as opposed to just like, oh, she's a clone, because that just
Right.
feels like a cheap way out to me right
Yeah.
I
now.
agree.
Um,
I do agree with that part. I think it would be
yes,
interesting, but yeah.
yeah. As to other theories, I think we need more data before I can really.
Yeah.
There's definitely Lumen has definitely got their tentacles into the government's got their tentacles into it, and to some degree because of the senator, we know that.
And all the
Uh,
luminaries at the party.
yeah, and there's this mysterious board that we haven't seen
Yeah.
yet. We're just hearing over these over
Yeah.
the speaker, and they barely say anything.
Someone actually said, "Are the goats the board?"
Yeah, yeah, I think I saw that clip.
Yeah.
And then yes, the goats. What are the goats for? For is it that for cloning experiment? Is that one goat been cloned over and over again? Who knows?
Right.
And then there's this like the severance technology itself. How could that be used for other purposes? Could you implant a different personality within? Because right now that they're just splitting a person's mind, but could you implant
Right.
a whole new personality with that technology?
And I think they're hinting at that also, that it's used in different ways of
Yeah.
that sort.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's that. And the theories to me are, it's like with Lost, that's the stuff that carries you through like the arc of the show week to week. But the overall thing that I'm like, and I think this is where Jesse's coming from. I'm much more interested in what it means to the characters. So
Yep.
that's where
Right.
my focus is. The theory stuff is like the icing on the cake, but I really want to see where this takes all of these characters. Another show that it reminds me of is Nowhere Man with Bruce Greenwood.
Oh, yeah.
Probably not a really well-known show, but
Yeah.
basically
Great
his
show.
identity is stripped out of public consciousness and nobody remembers him. So, yeah, and there's this whole struggle with his identity, and that's what I'm really interested in with this show as well. My hope is that it's been a long time, over 2 years since the last season, but I just hope that they've really fine-tuned and got these scripts down to like really tight, compact, smart,
Yeah.
layered things that were because our expectations are pretty high. Heard early reviews have been favorable, so that's a plus. And I guess we'll find out this Friday as we're recording on Sunday, so it's not too far away for us. That's where I'm at, and I'm dreading watching it live because, like others, I caught the show after it had aired, so it was nice to be able to jump from episode to episode because they have some of the most uh, outrageous cliffhangers to their
Yep.
endings.
Each
Yeah.
episode.
It's basically it feels like the episode's been split in half or something like that
Yep.
because the next scene just flows right into the one from the previous episode. So I'm just dreading the cliffhangers that we're going to be getting. But I
Yeah.
do love cliffhangers, so I think that's a part of the appeal that keeps me coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I watched it episode by episode, like I did
Mm,
Ted Lasso,
okay.
and it was frustrating. I'll say that right now.
Mhm.
I mean, I picked it up because I knew Adam Scott was going to be in it, and so I was anxiously awaiting it. And when I saw the first episode, I thought, wow, these are some serious acting chops these people have. And it just got better and
Yes.
better.
Yeah.
One of the things I keep thinking is that there's a reason these people are picked. You mentioned that Adam Mark was
Yeah.
picked to be here. And I wonder if, and we got a little hint of this with Irving, who is painting the hallway over and over again in the near the end of the season. Were they all suspicious of Lumen and that's why they're severed now? Were they all investigating something and that's why they're severed? There's so many implications with this, and I love theory crafting. I'm probably on the opposite side from you, Jesse. I love
Okay.
thinking about
All right.
where
So
things are and where they could go.
that makes for a good mix.
Exactly,
does,
in our
yeah.
discussion. And I'd like to think that Lou is probably like right smack dab in the middle, where he likes to go along for the ride, but he also thinks about the deeper issues in it. So I think we're incredibly cool, the three of us, in how we see things. The fact that we're such good friends, but we all have three different views on everything. It's so great.
It
Yeah.
always makes it fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned other shows and things. I want to throw out there's a book called The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E.
Okay.
Schwab. She makes a deal. She makes a deal with a shaman witch kind of person in the beginning of the book. It's like the 1300s or something, and she doesn't want people to think of her. She is wanting to disappear. And
Okay.
of course, the witch decides, as in every monkey's paw type stories, she makes it so no one ever remembers her.
Hmm.
They meet her, and the next time they see her, she's a whole new person. No one ever remembers her. And she lives forever. It
Yeah.
goes all the way to modern times. And she finally meets someone who remembers her. It's exploring the theme of how separated people can be from other people until you meet that person that gets you. And I loved that book. I read it twice, and I would recommend it to anyone that's looking for something that has many layers and very interesting themes to it. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. So good. And I feel like it has similar things to this in that you're severed from yourself, from other people. It just echoed in my mind just now when you brought that up.
I'm not
So
quite sure how.
Okay.
sorry, I said the E word.
Uh,
Uh, that's my wake word for you guys.
Okay.
okay.
Let's sum up season one, or at least give a little thought that you might want to give as a parting thought. And then I'm going to talk about season two for just a couple of minutes.
Okay.
Let's start with you, Lou.
One thing that just you sparked when you were talking about the characters was it's interesting the people that have been severed. One's a childless or a widower. One's gay. Another one seems to be a family man. Helly seems to be the corporate insider. So that's
Mm-hmm.
an interesting mix. Is this show just testing out how different people from different backgrounds react to this technology? I don't know. But it's Severance is one of those shows that comes along every once, and I don't want to say generation, but it seems like there's usually like a good 10-year gap or so,
Yep.
or more between a show that comes up with something unique. Like for the last couple of years, I guess I'd have to put Lost and Fringe in that category. We're in this new age of streaming where those previous series, they had the burden of doing 22, 24, 26 episodes a season. I think for a show like Severance, this smaller streaming model of 9 to 10 episodes is perfect for this kind of show because then they can't really put too much padding into it. So every episode has to count for something. I see season 10 too is going to be 10 episodes, and the last episode is
Yep.
75 minutes long.
A nice birthday present for me.
Nice, nice. So I guess where I'm sitting at right now is my biggest hopes for season two are that it's going to expand upon the characters and at the same time the mythology, deepen the stakes, expand the world. I think that's one of the strengths of the show. Some of the best storytelling happens, it starts very small. Star Wars starts on a farm. The Dark Tower starts with one guy chasing another guy across a desert. Lord of the Rings starts in the Shire and goes out into this big world. I'm hoping that show is going to follow that model. It seems to be, and I just hope that they just, with the expansion of the world universe, just don't lose the characters at the heart of it that we're all interested in.
How about you, Jesse?
I have a lot of questions, and one of them is why, as you guys are talking about, why are some people involved in this program and why not? Right? This is not just as simple as this is a way to have a work-life balance.
Mm.
How do they get people to apply? How do they, not how do you choose, but how do you get them to go do that, right?
Yep.
And is there partly because they're looking for certain types, like a widower, a parent, something, or are they specifically trying to manip things so that this specific person would join? So I'm curious about that. I am wondering the because we like, or at least I like Helly, her Annie so much, I'm a little looking forward to see getting to know Helly as the outie, which seems to be one of our main villains.
Kind of,
Yeah,
right?
kind of.
We don't
Yes.
know what line she straddles.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm going to lift this right from the Wikipedia
Yeah.
article on it. Influences, relatively recent media that influenced Severance include the online urban legend known as the Backrooms, the computer game The Stanley Parable, films including Office Space, The Truman Show, Being John Malkovich, and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and the comic strip Dilbert. Other influences include the existential hell in the Jean-Paul Sartre play No Exit, and the totalitarian dystopia in the George Orwell novel 1984. Aesthetically, the series was influenced by the films Brazil and Dark City. Regarding the real world influences of the show, Erickson remarked that, quote, the same frustrations that led us to this moment as a country, the United States, and as a world are the ones that I was feeling when I wrote this because I was working office jobs and I was dealing with all these increasingly insane requests that are made of workers. This was born of that, unquote. He added that, quote, employees are the ones who are expected to give and give with the understanding that this is a family. You're doing this out of love, but then that is often not returned by the employers in any kind of a substantive way, unquote.
Yeah. No, because and then I'm on my little soapbox is I see as someone who I can be tough on people who I have had trouble with employees that are truly not doing their share and kind of playing it. My family, my family comes first. And I go, absolutely, your family comes first, but you also still have to take care of, we're paid to do a job. But it is very clear, and this goes back a long time ago on North Dallas 40, the movie and
Mm-hmm.
the book, where it says every time I call it a game, you call it a business. Every time
Mm-hmm.
I call it a business, you call it a
Game. Yep.
you know? Every time you want to call it a family, fine, but then when we're not hitting our shareholder numbers, you will definitely will, right or wrong, there are layoffs that happen in December.
Yep.
And there is no good time to lay off anyone, period.
But right before Christmas.
Yes.
Yeah. I worked at a grocery store chain called Wegmans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anybody in the northeast part of the country is familiar because they are so well known here. Not here, I'm in Atlanta right now, but they just moved
Yeah.
down to Virginia. And I went to, when I got hired, you go to like orientation, and it's 3 days, their
Yeah.
orientation, because there is a whole environment that they're cultivating. I was going to work in the catering department,
Mm-hmm.
and that was down by the wine basement, and it was so cool down there. But I was hired along with this girl, and her name was Barbie, and she looked like a Barbie, but she was amazing. I loved her so much. And we sat in the orientation together, and at one point we looked at each other. We had all like a book full of materials in front of us and slideshows and people talking to us about the corporate environment. And we turned to each other and said, is this a cult?
Yeah.
Because that's what it feels like. But it was a great place to work. At that point, it was the number one place to work in the country. And there is this feeling of they're telling you we're all in this together.
Right.
But there is also a sinister feeling about it. And I think that is so true in real life, and it translates in the show. So let me talk about season 2 for a second. The first
Okay.
10 minutes or so are available to watch on Apple Plus until this next Friday. By the time you listen to this, it might have already come out. But all of the people that were in the first season are back for the second season. And
Yay.
additions include, and this is crazy, Gwendolyn Christie, who was in Game of Thrones, Bob Balaban, who you
wow.
recognize him if you
Yep.
see him.
Close Encounters.
Yep.
Yep.
And anything with Christopher Guest, he's in all those Christopher Guest movies. Merritt Weaver, who's been in a lot of different things. I know her
Mhm.
from The Walking Dead. Aliyah Shawkat, You'd also recognize her if you saw her, a new young actress that's up and coming. She's been in a lot of different things and critically acclaimed. Robbie Benson, for those of us who remember him,
Is someone that we
That's
haven't
deep.
heard forever.
Wow.
will also
All
be in the
right.
second season.
Really?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's
Wow.
Speaking
I
of
know.
freaking
Friends,
awesome. Whew.
Yeah.
so
If you weren't watching this show, you would want to, right? That
right?
Yeah.
I mean, talking about the first season and surprises and who was cast in it, how can you get any better people? These are people we may not have seen in a while, but and then people that we've seen are familiar with. It's
Yeah.
just
That makes me
I
excited, yeah, but it also makes me nervous. That's a lot of new characters.
yeah, but I think some of them are going to be those kind of little outy characters that have a big impact, but a pretty small role.
I hope so.
Christopher Walken, his screen time was pretty minimal
Hmm.
in
Yeah,
this.
he's back too, I
Yeah,
believe.
yes, he's coming back.
I wonder if he's going to play Mark's father or something.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's characters that are, I'm assuming, have already
Well, I'm
been
really excited now.
alluded to. Oh, I love Gwendolyn Christie. She was amazing in Game of Thrones. Merritt Weaver, Bob Balaban with his deadpan delivery of everything. Of course,
Definitely.
everybody had a crush on Robbie Benson when I was a preteen.
Sure.
I didn't even know he was acting anymore.
Maybe this is just a deep cut. I'm assuming he and Ben Stiller know each other
Hmm.
because that seems like a thing.
Yeah.
Ben Stiller's been in the industry since he was a kid because of his parents. That may be why he did the voice of the Beast in Beauty and the Beast. That's the last thing I remember him from. And that's been a long time.
I'm looking. He's done a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Lot.
Voiceovers and things like that.
Yeah, boy, he is man, that has kept him busy.
But not showing his face a lot. Of course, I remember him from Ice Castles. I love him.
Yeah.
People with posters on their walls and things like that.
Yeah.
It's really thrown me back.
Hmm.
Yeah. How can you not be interested in this show? So hopefully you guys will be on the ride with us. We're excited to talk about it. We're excited to interact with you about it. Hopefully you guys will be into it as much as we are. And I can't say enough good things about this show. I love it. And we all three of us broached the subject of talking about this show. One of the things I was hesitant about is that it is so esoteric. It has so many layers, and it's going to be difficult for us to really touch on every single thing. So I'm going to say right up front, we're going to miss stuff, you guys. Yeah. If you give feedback, we would love to hear what you guys catch that we don't. And also a slight apology as to we might be dumb in some places and not get references. Yeah. Do you guys have anything you want to cover before we go?
No, like I said, I'm excited about this. I'm looking forward to talking a new show that in the past, our dynamic is at least one of us doesn't know the show whatsoever, and the other two are veterans where we do know. Right. And it's going to be fun, all three of us not knowing what's.
Yeah, we've all done that with each other at one point, but this is a whole different animal. I did a podcast with Lou about Chuck, and that was week by week as it came out. And then you and I, Jesse, talked about Castle as it came out week by week. Castle's been off the air for quite some time.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you guys didn't do The Rookie.
She didn't.
I'm not into procedurals at all.
That show's not a procedural, is it?
It's
a
procedural.
Arcs? There's arcs in there, though.
There's many arcs,
there
sure,
is,
but it's like that in every. I mean, as much as I love him, I didn't think I'd want to talk about it. And if I did watch it, I didn't want to ruin it by talking about it.
Absolutely. I warned you guys about that with the Castle.
Honestly, I don't think we ruined it. Yeah. I think it did itself in.
Well,
with us.
As for myself, for season 2, I'm a little trepidatious because the honeymoon period is season 1. Season 2 has a difficult job of capturing the flavor of the first season, yet expanding the show, and at the same time not alienating the fans of season 1 who get mad when they don't do things that they want them to do. Hopefully they're going to manage that balancing act. They've had 2 years, 3 years to polish their scripts, so I'm sure hope that they're on their game. And yeah, I'm just excited. Like these new characters, a lot of them, which kind of
Yep.
makes me nervous, but
Yeah.
they're all top quality castings. Yeah, we'll just have to see where it
Mhm.
goes.
A lot in the first season too, and I didn't feel like it was
Yeah.
crammed and
Yeah,
anything.
that one lady is going to come back who did the operation to break the severance for the
Mm.
Mark's friend. Was it Irving? It was Irving.
Oh, Irving is
That's a hero. Yeah, I'm just hoping that they can continue the intrigue without after that delicate balancing act of answering questions and yet raising new questions, which can
Mhm.
be tricky.
We'll see.
Yeah, this was put in production and then stopped season 1 because of COVID. And then when they began filming the second season, it coincided and got shut down by the Writers Guild of America strike.
Ha,
So
ha, ha.
it's almost cursed, but when you come out with the product that they have, it's
Yeah.
okay, right? You're okay to wait 3
Yeah.
years in between seasons for it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, so that's where we stand right now. We're all anxiously looking forward to season 2 and very excited for it.
This will be our new flagship show on our new YouTube channel, which will be the JKL Media Pop Culture Reviews YouTube channel. So I hope you guys join us as we wind down our Babylon 5 podcast and start up with this one. So exciting times for us and
Very
hopefully
much
for our
so.
listeners.
And
Man, spoiler alert.
do we've changed our email, correct?
Yes.
All right.
It will be jklmedia at gmail.com.
You know,
JKL Media Reviews?
No, just
Okay, JKL Media at
Uh,
gmail.com.
check that. Now you got me questioning myself.
That's all right.
Uh,
So, Jesse, where can they find you?
I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter, aka X, Jesse Jackson on Facebook. You can hear me talking music on Set Listing Bruce and John Hyatt, who is a singer-songwriter, on Perfectly Good Podcast, and Doctor Who on Next Stop Everywhere. And would love to have people reach out to iTunes to rate and review the show. We haven't gotten in a while, and it would be lovely to have someone give us hopefully a 5-star review, but any feedback at all would be greatly appreciated.
Yep, exactly. I listen to my podcast on Audible,
Yes.
and we don't have any reviews there as well. Feel free to go there.
Good Pods is another format that is a really good way for you. There's not a lot of users. So if you go to Good Pods and download it and like it, we get,
There you go.
yes. Mhm.
That's good. So it's JKL Media Reviews at gmail.com. No, our YouTube channel will be JKL Media Pop Culture Reviews.
Okay.
Okay.
So there's that. We're getting a bit of a refresh since the B5 podcast is winding down. And I'm assuming we'll also update the stuff in our hosting provider to reflect that.
Yes.
You can find me personally at Aliveria on social medias, and also alliestuff.com is my blog. There's also a listicle site, which I will be posting these links as well, the links to our new channels, and it's alliestuff.com, so you can find us there. So we're wrapping it up here. Thank you guys for bringing this. We're still going to do the secondary stuff as we pick them up, and we're only pausing the Flanagan stuff for a little bit. We still will be talking about Hill House down the road. That will definitely be under our new umbrella as JKL Pop Culture whatevers.
No, you're great.
It's okay.
Thank you so much for coming. Be safe. Come join our family where we'll have all kinds of waffle parties.
Love waffles.
See you guys later.
Bye.
And
And scene.
the proceeding has been a JKL Media production.